The salt hit me first, that sharp, briny sting of the ocean wrapping around my lungs like an old friend I hadn't seen in decades. I was back at Tidewater Cove, standing on the rickety dock my dad built when I was just a kid chasing crabs with a net too big for my hands. After 30 years in the Coast Guard, dodging storms and smugglers, I thought I'd earned some quiet crab traps, a small stand, the sound of waves, maybe a chance to make peace with the past. But trouble doesn't care about your plans, and in this sleepy little coastal town, trouble had a name. Susan Caldwell, the HOA president with a clipboard and a grudge sharper than my gutting knife. I'd come back to restart Dad's crab stand, a weathered shack at the end of our family dock, where he'd sold blue crabs every summer for 40 years, each one plump, briny, perfect. Locals used to say eating one of Dad's crabs was like tasting the ocean's soul. I spent weeks fixing the place, upsanding down splintered planks, painting a new sign that read Tanner and Son Crab Company. That ampersand hit me hard, a quiet nod to the man who taught me how to tie a trap and face a storm. Most folks around the harbor knew me, or at least remember my dad. They'd wave as I hauled buckets of ice and crab in my old pickup, their smiles warm, familiar. But Susan? She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just watched, her lips pursed like she'd bitten into a bad oyster, her linen blazer and fake pearls screaming she didn't belong near salt water. Tidewater Cove was a tight-knit place, a mix of old fishermen, retirees, and city folks pretending they knew how to sail. Susan ran the HOA like it was her personal empire. God forbid your mailbox wasn't the right shade of coral. I didn't think much of her at first. I kept things low-key. A chalkboard with fresh crabs, $8 per pound scrawled on it, a cooler, a bucket or two, the soft clink of my knife on shell. Then one morning, I found a letter taped to the shack, crisp, official, sealed in plastic like evidence at a crime scene. This structure and its commercial activity violate Tidewater Cove HOA regulations. Cease operations immediately. Signed, Susan Caldwell, President. I laugh at me dock, my family's dock, built before this HOA even existed. I figured it was a mix-up, tossed the letter aside, and kept cracking crabs. Big mistake. 3 days later, Susan showed up, her heels clicking on the planks like she was marching to war. "You're running a business," she snapped. "No hello, no nothing." "That's right," I said, not looking up from my knife. Same one my dad ran for decades. Her eyes narrowed, that lemon-sucking look tightening. "This dock is under HOA jurisdiction. No seafood vending allowed. It attracts pests." I stopped, stared at her. "Pests? You mean gulls?" "I mean rats," she shot back, like she'd rehearsed it. That one stung. Dad's dock was cleaner than her pressed blazer. "Ma'am," I said, slow, deliberate, "this dock's been ours since '62, deeded to my family. HOA's got no claim here." She didn't blink. "Prove it, because I'm filing a violation, and your little stand's done." She spun around and left, her cardigan flapping like a warning flag. That night, I sat on the dock, legs dangling over the water, the marina lights flickering like stars. I thought of Dad, humming shanties while measuring crabs, calm even when the wind howled. I'd faced pirates, storms, sinking ships, but that letter, that smug threat, made my chest tight. I called the county land office closed. I stared at the water, feeling the weight of Dad's name in every plank. Susan thought she could erase that with a pen. She had no idea who she was messing with. The next morning, the air felt heavier, like the calm before squall. I opened the stand, laid out fresh crabs, but then Susan returned, this time with backup to HOA cronies. One a retiree named Harold who looked like he'd rather be golfing. The other a stiff named Clara, clutching a folder like it held state secrets. "Mr. Tanner," Susan said, her smile sharp as a fishhook, "this is your second notice. Commercial activity is prohibited without board approval." I leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "This is private land. You're standing on my dock." Clara piped up, waving a map. HOA jurisdiction includes a 30-foot waterline easement. "This dock's ours." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. "That's a landscaping clause, not a land grab. You think my crab traps are your flower bed?" Susan's smile didn't waver. "You'll face $500 daily fines unless you shut down. And if you don't, we'll pursue legal action." She slapped a notice on my cooler, smoothed it like she was sealing my fate, and walked off, her posse trailing behind. The hit came fast. Regulars stopped showing up. Mrs. Dorsey, a sweet old lady who'd bought crabs every week, waved from her porch but wouldn't meet my eyes. "Susan said we could be liable if we got sick," she mumbled, ashamed. "Liable? For crabs I cleaned with my own hands?" Susan wasn't fighting with fines, she was fighting with fear, whispering lies to turn neighbors against me. That night, I found my sign torn down, my cooler tipped over, ice melting into the planks. No note, no proof, just a message. I didn't call the cops. I sat there, staring at the wreck stand, feeling like I'd let Dad down. But I wasn't raised to fold. I dug through Dad's old storage bin ledgers, receipts, photos of him grinning with a crab trap in '79. And there, in a faded leather folder, was the deed. Tanner Dock, parcel 4472, 1962, signed, stamped, untouchable. Better yet, I found a 2008 HOA meeting note. Parcel 4472 excluded from jurisdiction due to legacy deed. Susan hadn't done her homework, or she thought I wouldn't do mine. I installed a camera under the shack's overhang, slapped up a new sign, Tanner and Son Crab Company, private property, and waited. Susan wanted a fight? I'd bring the law. The chance came with an HOA meeting flyer. Mandatory open forum, clubhouse, 6 p.m. perfect. I showed up in my Coast Guard dress blues, not to flex, but to remind them who I was. The room was packed, neighbors whispering, Susan and her board sitting up front like royalty. She droned on about budgets and landscaping, then hit her target: unauthorized commercial activity at the harbor. Everyone turned to me. "Mr. Tanner, care to respond?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake courtesy. I stood, slow, steady, and laid 3 documents on the podium. "This is the 1962 deed to my dock, filed with the county. This is a zoning map showing it's private land. And this," I held up the meeting note, "is your own HOA saying my dock's off limits to you." The room went quiet. "You don't own my dock, Susan. You don't control my crabs. And you sure as hell don't get to threaten my family's name." Someone clapped. Then another. By the time I sat down, half the room was on their feet. Susan's face was gray, her hands gripping her clipboard like it could save her. The next day, customers came back, Mrs. Dorsey first, with a cooler and an apology. "I should have trusted you," she said, eyes wet. I gave her an extra crab on the house. But Susan didn't quit. A letter arrived from her lawyer, threatening a lawsuit for trespassing, slander, even unsanitary signage. I laughed, filed it in a box I called Susan's Nonsense, and kept going. Then one morning, I saw her with a sheriff's cruiser pulling up. My heart sank, but I held steady. Susan pointed at me, ranting about illegal operations and threats. The deputy, a young guy named Mike, looked tired already. "You got proof this is your dock?" he asked. I handed him the deed, the county records. He read them, eyebrows climbing. "These are forged," Susan snapped. Mike didn't flinch. "Ma'am, these are notarized. This is private land. I got no jurisdiction here." Susan froze, her clipboard trembling. "You're doing nothing?" she hissed. Mike shrugged. "Take it to court, but I wouldn't." As he drove off, I offered him a crab. He laughed, declined, and left Susan standing there, her power crumbling like wet sand. The tide turned after that. Neighbors whispered about the sheriff's sighting with the crab guy. 2 more customers showed up that afternoon, one slipping me a 20 and muttering, "Susan's lost it." I filed a harassment claim with the city, backed by a lawyer named Tom, who said Susan's HOA had a history finding kids for chalk drawings, veterans for ramps. At a second hearing, Susan unraveled. When neighbors stood up, calling out her petty fines, she snapped, pointing at me. "He's poisoning this community," she shouted, papers flying, mascara streaking. The room gasped. She stormed out, her heels echoing like a retreating army. Her resignation hit the paper the next day. Effective immediately, health concerns. The dock became something more after that. I added a canopy, a mural of a crab with "Welcome Home" painted across it. We started crab boils, music nights, poetry readings. Kids ran down the planks, laughing. Veterans held a memorial. A couple took wedding photos. The dock wasn't just mine, Anna Marie, it was Tidewater's heart. One day, a woman named Ellie stopped by, her own HOA nightmare in hand. "I saw what you did," she said. "How do I fight?" I gave her Tom's number, a copy of my deed, and told her, "This dock's for you now, too." She won her hearing, sent me a photo, grinning with her approved garden permit. One frosty morning, I stood on the dock, coffee steaming, the water calm. The shack glowed, fresh paint catching the dawn. I thought of Dad, his hands on these planks, his voice in the wind. Susan thought she could erase that. She forgot who laid the boards. I whispered, "This is yours, Dad, but I'm keeping alive." The dock's not just a stand, no, it's a promise, a fight, a home. But here's the thing, Susan's gone, but there's always another Susan out there, another rule book waiting to choke something real. So what do you think? Was I right to dig in, or should I have folded to keep the peace? Drop a comment. Tell me your story. Have you faced your own Susan? Let's talk about what it takes to stand your ground.